I swear these other podcasts are just a waste of time. I'm skipping through them, I'd rather listen and change my mind. Wes and Nick always help me through my daily grind. Your favorite guys, your favorite lines, change my mind. I swear these other podcasts are just a waste of time. I'm skipping through them, I'd rather listen and change my mind. Wes and Nick always help me through my daily grind. Your favorite guys, your favorite lines, change my mind. Yeah.
Episode 28, Change My Mind podcast. Wesley Sykes, Nick Fryer. You might say the Rick Dalton to my Cliff Booth, or vice versa. I think I had that written the other way around, Nick Fryer.
Wow. Yeah, I would have thought you would have had it written the other way around.
Yeah, I did. It's dyslexia. You know, it comes in tough this time of year.
So am I Brad Pitt, or are
yes, yeah, you're Brad Pitt. Yes.
I am totally fine with that.
I figured you'd be okay with that.
I love Brad Pitt. He may be my favorite actor ever.
He's certainly up there.
He's amazing, man. I can't get enough of him.
My question for you, as I'm switching things up here, how do you feel about people who take their shoes off in the movie theater? I saw this going around a little bit on Twitter. I think I might have saw Ty Anderson say something about it. And obviously with the topic that we're going to be discussing today, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that is prominently featured.
Is that a thing? Like I saw Margot Robbie do it. I didn't really think much of it because I've never really noticed anyone to do that before.
So I've been known to put my feet up on the chairs in front of me, if that's the case. You know, if no one's in front of me, it's available. It's not a packed theater. If I don't have people behind me either, where that could be ruining their movie theater experience. But I don't take my shoes off very often.
Okay, So I mean, have you seen people do that?
I think my fiance has done it a time or two. When we're into the nice, like, comfy, reclining, almost like love seat sort of things. Mm-hmm.
It's definitely different.
Kind of lends itself, I think, a little bit more.
People take their shoes off in public way too much as it is.
Yeah.
Just
so you're not a fan of it.
I am not.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I've never known people to do something like that. So that's why I would say generally I'm not a fan. I don't like feet that much.
Not a big feet guy either.
I don't know many people who are feet people. Like you're other than maybe the director of the movie we just saw.
Well, that's a big market tease. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the program.
Yeah, but I don't. I mean. I like wearing sandals, and then occasionally my shoes come off. I'm not going to go and throw them.
Now, are you a thonged sandal guy?
No,
or
we've discussed this.
Okay.
No, hell friggin' no. That's for girls only.
Well, listen.
And even then, I'm not a fan of it.
There's one time that I can accept a guy in thong sandals.
Jesus?
Nope, that's if well,
he had what are those Birkenstocks, right? The Air Jesuses. I think he was more of a Birkenstock guy than a thong.
I think thongs are okay for a guy if they're like I'm going to put them on at the car and walk down to the beach with them on.
Sure.
Like fine. I bought them for $2 at CVS on my way to the beach.
That's fine.
But they should not be your daily footwear.
That's a really specific instance, Tim.
But I'm not really a sandal guy anyway at all.
I can't imagine you being that. You're more of a lumberjack kind of guy. Yeah. Cowboy boots, Tim's.
No cowboy boots.
No cowboy boots?
Okay.
I got to get you a pair.
Motorcycle boots.
Okay.
All right, fair enough.
All right.
Respect.
Well, hopefully you're following along on our live stream, which we just tweeted out on our social media platforms, at Change My Mind Pod, at Fry_Guy1, even at Tim Weisberg, who is our guy in the chair and resident blue check mark.
Yes, this is true.
Or myself at Wesley Sykes _. But, of course, if you're following along on WBSM 1420 AM, New Bedford, Fairhaven, great local radio station.
Absolutely.
As I mentioned off the top, we're going to be talking about Quentin Tarantino's 9th, 10th, 11th?
9th.
Well, it's kind of iffy, though. I'm not really sure about this.
It's his 9th movie that he's directed.
Written and directed?
No, his 9th movie that he's directed.
Okay. But Death Proof isn't part of that.
Death Proof is actually it's half of a overall movie.
Right.
Like overall the movie is Grindhouse.
Right.
And so he directed half of that. And he directed 1/4 of a movie called 4 Rooms.
Yes. Yeah, I came upon that in my research.
Have you watched all of his stuff?
No. Not all of it, but a vast majority of it.
Okay.
And I think it's kind of hit or miss.
I've seen everything but Death Proof.
Okay.
Really?
That I haven't seen. Yeah, I haven't seen that either.
So are you a Tarantino guy, Tim?
I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for Tarantino.
Wow.
He got me into wanting to be in the media. I mean, I always wanted to be in radio, but after I saw Pulp Fiction, I was like, I want to be a movie director. I want to create visual art.
I like that.
And I never really got to that level.
What movie did that for you? Was it?
It was Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
I saw that movie, I think 6 times in the first 2 weeks that it was out.
No
Really?
kidding.
Oh yeah. Well, because different groups of my friends hadn't seen it yet, so every time somebody was going, I'd be like, "I'll go with you. I'll go with you," because I was just like that infatuated
Enamored,
with the movie.
yeah.
So when you had the Netflix people in studio here today, were you directing them left and right on what to do?
No, I actually I resisted the urge to drop the bomb on them, as they're like, running all around, bunch of people from New York, in here filming something.
City slickers.
They're
Yes,
all.
as
I
they say,
mean,
yeah.
if any of them are watching, I feel bad for saying this, but they're all a bunch of hipsters. And
Do
they're
they
like,
have beard oil?
some of them definitely must have. and as they're going on and on about like television production and like all this stuff, I want to just turn to them and be like, listen, I don't know how to tell you this. I've worked as a writer and a producer on 3 different television series now, soon to be 4.
That's right.
I've got more
Resident Blue
IMDb
checkmark.
credits than you.
Exactly.
But I
Spare me.
didn't want to be that guy.
Right.
I didn't want to be that guy for them. I'll
Not
obviously
for
be
them.
that guy for this audience.
You're always that guy for us, Tim.
Right.
We appreciate it very much.
Well, a nice little flex, though, just to let them know, kind of knock them down a few pegs.
Yeah.
It's
I
always
love to do that to
necessary.
people. in
Exactly.
It's what's up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love
But
it.
before we get to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Ooh, can't wait for
which
it.
is a mouthful of a title,
Yeah.
let's get to some news and notes here.
Ooh, we
Yeah.
got a big one, right? With
Yes.
Kevin Conroy.
Yes, and this was brought to us by Tim Weisberg. But he found this on ScreenCrush.com. And Kevin Conroy, who was the voice of Batman in the animated series and Batman Beyond and so many other animated versions of the Cape Crusader.
Pretty much everyone.
Yeah, will be in the live action Cape Crusader for the first time.
Unbelievable.
Well, not exactly the Cape Crusader, though. Right?
He is.
My understanding is he'll play an older Bruce Wayne in the upcoming Arrowverse. So is he actually going to put on the cap and cowl, as they say? The cape and cowl?
I don't think he will, but I think
They
that.
should do that, though. Come on.
Well, but he's also he's in his 60s.
I don't care, Tim. You're dealing with alternate realities and everything like that.
I mean, I
we're
just
talking
wonder-
about superheroes. Who cares how old they are?
Well,
How's it relevant?
Because my assumption is that they wanted older Bruce Wayne for a reason for this. So there may be another Batman at this point. Maybe
It's like a
Azrael.
Terry McGinnis?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I'm fine with that, but even at that point when Terry McGinnis took over, Bruce Wayne was old. He was still trying to be Batman. So maybe this is where he is Batman, and then Terry comes in and takes over.
Or it could be. I mean, judging by it could be Azrael.
what's
Judging
up.
by the time of this.
Oh.
Judging it by being Crisis. That would be interesting.
So, yeah, that's my question. So this was supposed to be based off the DC comic series Crisis on the Infinite Earths. Are you familiar with those two? I don't know what the storyline is.
It's basically was their Secret Wars.
Okay.
Actually, I believe Crisis predated Secret Wars, right?
I think so.
And that's what made Marvel want to do Secret Wars.
Well, that kind of falls in line with the history of the two companies, right?
Yes,
So,
it's pretty much lockstep, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think if you doing it with Azrael, I'd be fine with that. But
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting twist.
that character has an amazing look in the books. I mean, he was in Gotham too. I can't remember if they got into his look a ton, but I know he's in Batman White Knight now. And
Azrael was in
or not White
was
Knight.
in Gotham.
Yeah.
I gave up on that show way too soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people didn't like it. I was fine with it, but you guys know how I am when it comes to TV. You know, like Wes will always mention. I'm not going to say it. I'll let you say it.
No, we got to move on from because I was going back to some older episodes and I was like, wow, we really mentioned this like every single episode. So
Yes.
I think I want to see if I can go one episode without actually saying those three
It
words.
could also, but it could also be a catchphrase too. At
right,
this
it
point.
could be. Yeah, it could be.
It's just Wes's way of discrediting me. But I'm excited about Conroy getting his shot on screen. I think he deserves it. He's put in the time. He's got the. I mean, when you think of Batman's voice,
Yeah, he is Batman to people.
Right.
whose voice do you think of though, Wes? I'm serious.
Well, no, I mean, I grew up on the Batman the Animated Series, and that was kind of one of my big staples. You know, when I think of Batman, though, you know, I kind of think of Michael Keaton.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't.
Maybe even like Val Kilmer, just because that was my age group of like, not that that's like my preferred Batman.
No, but I can understand.
No, but Val Kilmer was a decent Batman.
He was a
I
good
think
one,
people,
yeah.
People crap on him way too much, but I think he was a good Batman. Probably a better Batman than he was a Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
His
well,
Bruce Wayne was in like psychoanalysis, so
right. That's
like,
true.
You know, that's kind
But
of.
he's
defeats the
kind of
purpose.
aloof, and he's definitely got the looks. You know, he doesn't. Yeah, I think that could work. Not the current present day Val Kilmer.
I think
Val Kilmer right now, 2019, has kind of let himself go.
Right.
Just a bit.
I think Clooney would have been a fantastic Batman if he was given the right circumstances. He just
Right, didn't have Joel Schumacher.
Yeah, he was just set up to fail.
I was
They
say
gave
I'm
him
more of a Clooney
friggin'
guy.
nipples.
Right, that's true. And was that the one where he had the bat card where he never leaves home without it? Right.
Yes,
Is that which one was that? Was that Batman and Robin
Batman
or
and Robin.
Batman Forever?
Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
That
okay.
was one of the hokiest pieces of crap ever.
But it was intentionally hokey, but it was intentionally hokey at the wrong time.
Yeah,
Right.
It was a terrible move. I would say that Conroy. I think when I think of Batman, it's Bale, but still the animated series is a character probably that I think of most. That's why when it comes to Ben Affleck's Batman, I felt like they kind of made the character a little soft. I know he was older, but the thing I appreciate about him most is he had the look down. I mean, he looked like Kevin Conroy's Batman. But I mean, you look at Conroy's Batman, it's just he's got the voice is just. That's what it is.
Now, my last thing I'll say on this is that Kevin Conroy looks like the real jerk of a father from Shazam. You know, like I'm blanking on his name, but the bad guy's father.
Oh yeah.
He kind of looks just like him.
He looks to me like
that's not a bad call.
He looks to me like John Glover, the guy that played Lionel Luthor in Smallville. In all the photos I've seen of him,
I can't picture that name.
You know what? I think did I meet Conroy? Did he come to one of the? Did he come to one of the Rhode Island?
I can't answer that question for you.
I may have. He might have been at one of the early Comic-Cons.
Rhode Island. Can you see the monitor, Wes?
Yeah. Okay. I can see it.
I can kind of see
it. Got some old contacts in.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. The Lionel Luthor
John
reference.
Glover?
Yeah, but I wouldn't think of that personally. But
and then real quick, we have number one in the box office this past weekend. Fast and the Furious spinoff, Hobbs and Shaw, of course, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And what's his name? Jason Statham.
Yep, and Idris Elba.
Idris, yeah. Is it Idris or Idris?
No, you're right. It's Idris.
I don't know. I'd never know.
I think it's Idris.
Yeah.
Either way, he's a badass. I mean, that seems like a pretty awesome cast, right?
Yeah,
there.
he's like a Black Superman in that movie.
I think you're right.
I think they used that line actually.
I hope to God they do. Do you plan on seeing this in theaters?
No, I'm not a big Fast and the Furious guy. You know, hauled in $60 million domestically, $120 million worldwide, so it's still short of its $200 million budget, or $120 million, worldwide, including domestically. So
gotcha.
that's the final number. But what I thought was interesting, through 8 films, the Fast and the Furious series has generated more than $5 billion worldwide.
$5 billion.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's a lot.
That is a lot, yeah.
8 films. This is the
That's
8th.
pretty damn good.
Not too bad for like
not at
kind
all.
of a crappy series.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? Like you don't really like. I just feel like it's popcorn movie. You know?
Yeah, it's nothing special. There's not a lot of. There's no substance behind it whatsoever,
Right.
and it's been around for a while too. So
Yeah.
it's like some
Just
of these
keeps
movies
plugging along.
came out in an era where you weren't necessarily making that much money off of movies.
Right.
It wasn't that. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it's easy to do it now, but it didn't happen as frequently.
They're also huge in China.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they make $1 billion, like even the last couple, I guess some of the ones weren't as great here, but they've made over $1 billion in China.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb. So
I kind of want to see it.
Pretty good number.
I don't know if I don't think I'll see it in
I
theater.
love The Rock. I got nothing against Jason Statham.
I like them both very much, and I like Idris Elba too.
Yeah,
I think. Now you're just I'm
just confused myself here. Yeah.
You're confused yourself. Good.
They say that basically Idris Elba just chews the scenery as the bad guy.
Oh,
so
really?
you've got 2 guys that are funny action stars. You know, you don't think of Jason Statham as being funny, but he is.
But he kind of has, yeah.
No, yeah, he's funny.
And of course, Dwayne Johnson is hilarious.
Right.
So with the 2 of them together and him, it's a recipe for success. I think it's a movie that will do well even for people that don't like Fast and the Furious like me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think I'm gonna want to see this at some point for sure.
Last news before we move on
yes,
here.
So we have Andy Serkis has been confirmed by the Hollywood Reporter as the director of the second Venom movie. I mean, I saw Venom 2, but I don't know if that's necessarily what it's going to be called. My big thing with this, Wes, is I like this casting, or not casting, I like this decision from Sony because you got a guy who is so accomplished with, is it motion action?
I think so.
Is that what it's called?
I think that's how it works.
Motion capture.
Motion capture. Thank you. Motion capture. I mean, he was obviously Gollum. He was Kong. You brought up, too, before the show that he was Caesar in Planet of the Apes and that whole new run. This is a guy who's going to know exactly what to do in terms of all the action and everything else, how to carry himself. You have a foundation what Venom was before, but I would think he's only going to build with that character now that you have Serkis.
Yeah, and I hope so. You know, Venom wasn't great. You know, so
fine.
I'm not, it can't be that much worse.
No.
So I think hopefully you can just only go up from here.
Knowing going into it that Spider-Man's not there, where the origin's going to be a little, they're going to take liberties with it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, it was just fine.
There's some level
it's like a turkey sandwich of movies. It's just okay.
If I was Marvel, I'd be doing everything that I could to stop this from taking place.
Absolutely.
That's
because Fox is going to lose all the properties anyway, and you're you're ruining Carnage before you have the chance to bring him into the MCU.
And then as we're seeing with the X-Men that keep getting pushed back, like it looks like from all like the YouTube videos and rumors and everything, like the X-Men is going to be given some time to rest and breathe before they reintroduce him again. So, if that is the case with Venom and they end up at,
you want to be able to let them breathe, but it's going to be tough.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Venom, really quick on the comic book minute before we get into Stay Woke. Absolute Carnage is out this week, and I've been seeing advertisements for there's going to be a lot of little spin-off mini stories with it. There's going to be a Deadpool. I don't know if it's Deadpool versus Carnage because they've already had that, but they're going to have some stuff going on. I think Miles Morales is brought in at some point.
Okay.
Peter Parker. A bunch of people are getting brought in on these stories, but Absolute Carnage 1, I plan on reading it. I'll try and let you guys know if I end up how that first issue goes. No One Left to Fight 2. Now, this is kind of a startup story from Dark Horse Comics. The first issue I liked a lot. I read the second issue. Reviews coming out on Wednesday on Geeks Worldwide. I'll just tell you that I feel similarly to the first issue, and we'll leave it at that. And then lastly, I've talked to you about this a ton, Wes, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Shattered Grid. The trade for that comes out this week. So for anybody who didn't get to follow along when it came out.
The trade, when you say that, that's comic book jargon I'm not familiar with.
It's like basically the graphic novel. So it's like a collection.
The whole collection.
Exactly. But technically it's not a graphic novel because it's the comics brought together. So yes, it's me being a little bit of a douche. So it's
I just don't know. I was looking for some clarification. I wasn't passing any judgment.
Not at all, never.
No, just in my head I was trying not to.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Issues 25 to 30 though, that comprises Shattered Grid. 24 was like a prelude to it, but you're going to be fine with just this alone. There's a deluxe thing, like a hardcover, but I don't know. Hardcover books, especially with something like this where it's like big.
Yeah, it's lengthy. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm talking like height wise. I'm all set with that. I can't do that with a hardcover. But anyways, what do you got for me to stay woke about this week?
So I think this is pretty well documented. I just found it interesting. This was upon all of us watching the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This came up in the group text here about Quentin Tarantino's love for feet. So I think, I just wanted to research it a little bit and I see where it came from, where it kind of stemmed from. So when I typed in Quentin Tarantino foot fetish into Google, so this was like one of the first, maybe the second or third stories that came up. So apparently Tarantino's foot fetish dates back before 2011, but I stumbled upon this email from someone who spent the night with Tarantino after a Hollywood party one night in 2011. In great detail, she explains the whole night's worth of interactions, which is included with telling former New York Yankee reliever Jabba Chamberlain that he'll never be better than former Giants reliever Brian Wilson, to which he responds by calling her a lesbian, this person who's penning this story, which I thought was kind of a nice, interesting tidbit. She also rode in a car back to Tarantino's mansion with Jamie Foxx, and Jamie Foxx apparently never acknowledged her existence once, which I thought was kind of interesting as well. But she then goes on to detail that they didn't have sex, but instead, when the time thought she was going, things were going to be progressing to past making out and doing the deed. He instead asked to suck on her toes while I'm not sure if I can say this.
He took care of himself.
Yeah.
He pulped his own fiction.
Wow, that was great.
He reservoired his own dog.
Oh, wow. Do you have any more? I mean, I don't want to stop you here.
He unchained his Django.
Oh, that might be the winger right there.
He once upon a time his Hollywood.
He killed his Bill.
Yeah.
Is that one too? Is that what we're doing? Yeah.
Yes.
I got this
Pretty
game.
much,
I like
yes.
this game.
Yes.
Okay. But okay, so now I wanted to go back and see all these other instances where feet were prominently featured in his movies. So from Dusk Till Dawn, this is a very seductive scene with Selma Hayek, probably peak Selma Hayek if you ask me here.
I love it.
Where her character Santanico is a stripper, and she pours beer on herself, and Tarantino sucks the beer from her feet as it's dripping down her body.
To be fair, that's not a Tarantino movie, though.
No, but he is in it.
He wrote it, so he wrote that scene.
Right, exactly.
He wrote that scene with a character that he was already going to play.
Right.
Sucked on Salma Hayek's toes because she was already going to play that character.
Yes. Then I think there's plenty of other options that you could choose from Pulp Fiction here. Perhaps Tim can help me fill out the rest here. But where Jules and Vincent talk about massaging Marcellus Wallace's wife's feet.
That's actually why he killed Tony Rocky Horror.
Yes. What did he kill him?
His name
though?
was-
I
his
thought
name
he
was-
had a speech impediment.
Yeah,
or
no,
something
that's right.
after
They didn't
that.
kill him. They threw him through a window.
Right.
But
A greenhouse, and he landed on a greenhouse.
And what was his real name? It was Antonio Rocamora, but everybody called him Tony Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
And gave him a speech impediment.
Anything else I'm missing from that movie? Obviously, when they take the shoes off, when they
take
go
the shoes
dancing.
off, yep. And there's a lot of close-ups of her feet.
Yep.
Anything else from Pulp Fiction? I don't think so.
Okay.
But other movies, of course.
Yeah, we have Jackie Brown, where the character Melanie is shown with her feet very close to Robert De Niro's
Bridget
drink, and
Fonda
it's
in that movie.
yes. I was blanking on that name, and it's again front, the front of the frame, really wiggling her toes. She's got all her little toe rings on and everything. In the aforementioned Death Proof, the stuntman Mike tickles and licks the feet of a woman while they remain in the forefront of the frame for the majority of the shot. And Inglourious Bastards, Colonel Landa, which I always think Colonel should have an R in it, and it always throws me off.
Yes,
Right.
no,
I don't understand how you get Colonel out of
Is
that.
that French?
I believe so.
Okay,
could be.
That could be why.
But he essentially lives out his Cinderella fantasy and puts a shoe on Bridget's foot, who had her toe shot off during the tavern shootout scene, and if the shoe fits and that sort of thing. But he takes off her other shoe. This is right before he strangles her, and then puts on the shoe that was left behind in the tavern.
Colonel Landa, is that
Christoph Waltz.
that is Christoph Waltz? Okay.
Kill Bill Volume 1, Uma Thurman tells herself to wiggle her big toe to break through her paralyzed state. And then, of course, as we'll get into our main topic here, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we have Margot Robbie showing off her dirty souls, which was disgusting, if you ask me, while watching her own movie in a theater. And then, equally as disgusting.
More disgusting, more prominent.
Pussycat throws her yellow feet on the dash of Cliff's car, both in the front of the frame prominently featured.
You know what's funny is I didn't notice Margot Robbie's feet in the course of it.
Oh, they were filthy.
I was more paying attention to, like, her reaction.
Facial
I'm
expressions,
waiting to
yeah.
see, like, is everybody, because I didn't know the movie that she was watching. I was like, is she waiting for people to, like, boo her or something like that? Is this going to get ugly?
Right, yeah.
So I kind of got distracted in the course of it all.
So my last two questions here. Okay, so who has the more famous foot fetish in your opinion, Rex Ryan or Quentin Tarantino?
I'm going to be honest, I didn't know Tarantino had a foot fetish.
Okay, so Rex Ryan.
So to me, it's Rex Ryan.
Okay.
Well, and I would say Tarantino's is probably more famous, just because I think he's more famous than Rex Ryan.
Yes.
And most people have seen his movie. Most people who have seen his movies pick up on the feet thing. Anyway, but I mean, Rex Ryan has the more impressive foot fetish because he went all out. I mean, he didn't just make a regular movie,
Right. No,
and
he
put
had a home
feet in
feature.
it.
Yeah.
He made an entire movie about the feet.
But I think one could be argued that this long list of feet being prominently featured is like really going out of his way to share his own
I still
foot
put it
fetish.
below
It's very
the
weird.
X-rated foot movie.
Okay, well, we don't know what's in Quentin's private collection.
I also have to say that I was probably more impressed with Rex Ryan's acting than I have been in Quentin Tarantino's acting in some of his films that he's actually acted in.
Yes, that's a
Although
good
he was
point.
good in Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, okay.
God, Pussycat Doll's feet were just...
was
Pussycat
disgusting.
Doll, Jesus. Pussycat's feet were just so disgusting.
Well, she's a dirty hippie at the end of the day,
Yeah,
so
I didn't-
she's looking the part.
Also, some of that yellow could have been from the
Windshield.
windshield itself.
Yeah, well, you figure he's smoking a
don't
lot of
care.
cigarettes in there. There's
Not only that, but it could have been a tinted windshield because
Right.
of the sun. You know, like how you wear yellow sunglasses. So
Yep.
the windshield could have been tinted a little yellow because of the California sun. So
Last thing before we move on, have you seen Antonio Brown's blister-covered feet going around on the internet? Because that is also very gross.
I have not, and I don't want to see it.
They are just covered in blisters.
I swear to God, if
very
you text me
gross.
that later, I'm going to be pissed.
First thing in the morning tomorrow.
Do not do that.
Okay, so main topic time. Once upon a time in Hollywood.
Yeah, buddy. This is the first time, so we always, communicate, because obviously, as you guys know, if you follow along, we're inconsistent with our timing on the live show. It changes just because of summer and everything.
From time to time,
exactly. So, in general ballpark.
Lives.
Well, yeah, of course. My point more so is that's usually when, as a group, we talk. Then the 3v3s, that stuff. But this is the first time. I mean, partially because Tim actually saw the movie. But we all were talking about it as it went along. Tim let us know as soon as he saw it. I let you know, and then obviously once you weighed in, everything just got going. So this is one of those rare occasions where it's like a lot of differing opinions on this.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the Fire Stick's going to help me going forward.
It's a big game changer.
It is.
Oh, you didn't have that before?
I did not. No. So my issue is getting to the theater. Now
right. And do you necessarily want to spend the money for a movie that maybe you're not? I mean, this one seems like you were generally excited about. But
right. In general, I usually would want to see a Tarantino movie, but I have not seen the last 3 in the theater.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right, Wes, tell us about the movie.
Well, it's a faded television actor and his stunt double strive to achieve fame and success in the film industry during the final years of Hollywood's golden age in 1969 Los Angeles, starring, of course, Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Dakota Fanning, Al Pacino, Kurt Russell, Emil Hirsch, who had to do a double take and was like, oh, yeah, that is Emil Hirsch, playing Roman Polanski.
Oh, okay.
Michael Madsen, Luke Perry, rest in peace. And Rumor Willis, the daughter of Bruce Willis and Demi Moore.
Before you go any further, just regarding the cast. Now, Luke Perry, I'm not as familiar with his appearance.
I didn't pick up on where he was.
So he was the brother of the series that Rick Dalton's filming with Timothy Olyphant's like the main star.
Yep.
Luke Perry played the brother.
That he ends up shooting?
Yeah,
like
that was
in the
later
beginning?
Scene.
Oh, no kidding.
So that was I think he was wearing a mustache. But that was him.
Okay. And then Dakota Fanning, is she Pussycat?
No, she was the redhead who was sleeping with the 80-year-old.
That was Dakota Fanning?
I thought she was Squeaky Frome?
That's what I thought, yeah.
Oh, man, I didn't know that. I don't know. I have no idea.
It was the big eyes that kind of stuck out to me.
I didn't even pay that much attention to Squeaky because I thought Squeaky was going to be more prominent in the movie because she was kind of, she's kind of an important character in the Manson lore.
Right.
But she was not really that prevalent outside of that scene.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's rocking 8.5 out of 10 on IMDb right now. It's after a $41 million opening weekend, it's pulled in $78.8 million in 2 weeks of release. It fell from number 2 in opening week to number 3 this past week.
Okay, and it was she was Squeaky.
Thank you very much.
I think I saw that it was the biggest non-franchise summer movie.
Oh, really?
In a long time, yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Okay. Good for Quentin.
So,
question number 1 to Nick. Did you like it? What'd you think?
I did like it. I gave it an 80 on our 100-point scale.
Okay.
I would say, to sum it up in a sentence, it's a movie I think everybody should see, but I don't think it's a movie you can watch more than once.
Right. Like, I could see myself maybe watching it upon initial release, and maybe if you notice here, I'm trying to work into my vernacular as much as I can here, so... It's a little bit of an Easter egg, if you will. Tim, upon further review?
So I did not enjoy it as much as I did other Tarantino movies. In fact, I said this is not a Tarantino movie through most of it.
Why would you? What makes you say that?
Well, we can get into that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we got to get your initial...
Right. Okay. We'll definitely get into that, but it has more to do with genre than anything else.
Grade.
And
so a very unique 100-point scale.
But I would say that the ending turned things around for me.
Yes.
So I would give it, if Pulp Fiction is my 100 out of 100, I would go with, I'll give it a little better than an 80. I'll give it an 85.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm right in between you guys. My number was 83, so I think we're all in the same boat here. Yes, I liked it. No, I didn't love it. That's just my general thought. There's a lot to like about it, but there's a lot of meat on this steak.
Yeah, it's very rare, though, that you have a higher grade than I do.
Yes.
Although
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the movie, and I think... I did have kind of a crappy stream on my Fire Stick, so it did kind of have to load, and that's the problem when you get movies in theaters sometimes.
Mine was more an audio issue.
Oh, so yeah, so sometimes it didn't always link up.
Well, it just was terrible. Like I couldn't really hear everything that was being said. I had to keep rewinding it to catch a line.
Okay, yeah. So that's also probably part of the issue is that obviously these movies are so dialogue driven.
I saw it in the theater, so.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Well, at least one of us didn't admit to piracy on the show.
Yes.
Well, come at me, FBI, okay?
They're a little busy.
Yeah. But yeah, so my breakdown is, I think they could have cut out like at least 25, 30 minutes of this movie.
Agreed.
Really?
Yeah.
So where would you have cut it?
There's just a lot of dialogue that I feel like doesn't necessarily move the plot or the characters forward that you could still.
But that's what Tarantino is.
Right.
It's a bunch of mundane conversations that really don't drive the plot forward.
Makes you care about the characters more, in my opinion. Like now it's like I get an idea of what they're about, what they're going through.
I get the point. I get what's going
more
on.
About it's more about Tarantino's. It's more about his statement on the era, or statement on the genre, or statement on whatever it is they're doing. That's what that dialogue has to do with more than anything.
I think he made a pretty powerful statement on what the actors were like back then.
There's a lot of driving too.
I think that they could have cut a lot of the scenes where it was Rick Dalton acting.
Yeah.
Like a lot of that stuff where he was on, I forget the name of the show that he was doing.
They did actually. That's really
Bounty Hunter.
No, not Bounty Law. The one that he was filming
in Italy
in the modern times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The one where he was like the villain and he threw the little girl to the ground.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They did a lot with that. Actually, that is a good point. They might have had like 7 minutes of that.
Right.
And I was like, all right, we get it. He struggled. Now he's getting it together.
And there was like 3 scenes like that too.
Yeah.
Like they really didn't need to have 3 scenes of that. One would have sufficed.
And I don't know if this was just my the copy that I got off the Fire Stick, but are there like jump cuts in this movie where it just seems like it just kind of picks back up and it looks like there's like a hard cut,
like that first scene when they were in the restaurant with Al Pacino.
Yep.
There were some jump cuts in there.
And even when he's screwing up his lines with Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like he's sitting down there having the beans and you can't remember his line. And it looks like it's just like a snap forward 5 minutes or something like that after he pulls it together.
I think that was legit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, the fact that they had that excess where he's, first he starts screwing up, then he goes and he freaks out in his trailer, then he comes back and then he's like, he absolutely kills it. Part of me is like, okay, now and then to see him just go get bounced over into Rome, it's like what they're trying to show is like the business is cruel, and it doesn't matter if you're on the top of your game, if you're just not that upper echelon person. Now you could still be a good quote actor, but it doesn't matter. You're gonna get the boot because you're just not the it person anymore. You're just a doormat.
But I got that from the conversation with Al Pacino. Yeah, you know what I mean, like that.
Yeah, but how do you know
he
Al Pacino's...
agreed, and then he cries, because he agreed to it.
But okay, Al Pacino could be a hustler who's just trying to make money and trying where things are kind of. Yeah, but he's a BS producer who's trying to get him to go into these stupid movies and westerns that are made in Rome.
Spaghetti westerns. That's a real thing.
Yeah, I understand it, but I'm saying you're going to trust a guy like that necessarily.
I would go over and do that.
Well,
sounds like a good time.
But you're also not Rick Dalton, who was this accomplished actor and everything. And with Leo DiCaprio, he clearly had self-esteem issues.
Well, yes.
So, I mean, he believed him. That doesn't necessarily mean dick to me.
Well, I don't think that going over to make a spaghetti western was necessarily a bad. I think it was more like kind of an in-joke a little bit. Because Clint Eastwood played a character named Rowdy Yates on a show called Rawhide, where he was like this second banana guy on a very popular Western. And when he went out to kind of make his own mark, he made a few like low-budget sci-fi movies that went nowhere, kind of like Rick Dalton. He made a couple low-budget movies that really didn't help his career out. And then Clint Eastwood went over to Italy and made Westerns with Sergio Leone. And that's when he blew up and became Clint Eastwood.
Really?
Was by going and making those movies. So it was almost like kind of like a joke where, you don't want to go and do that, but when he goes, he's going to go and he's going to come back as, Rick Dalton from having been in those movies.
Right.
Huh.
Okay, so this brings up my first question. The argument here is who in your opinion did a better job acting? Is Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt.
It's not who is your favorite character. Which I think is a different question.
That is tough for me. I think Leo did a phenomenal job. I'm not a Leo guy at all.
Really, I did not know that.
No, I don't hate him. He just doesn't do it for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just never really understood the appeal. I was like,
I don't understand. I think he's fantastic.
I think he's a good actor.
I think he shed that early child star, boyish heartthrob, Tiger Beat cover boy into like a legitimately well-crafted actor.
Yes, he's a good.
Who's been snubbed by Oscars a couple of times.
Yeah, he's a very good actor. But just some like would I say Brad Pitt's a very good actor? No, not really. But I enjoy him. He just does it for me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm getting at here. It's just like I don't know what to tell you when it comes to that. It's just Brad Pitt resonates with me.
Well, it's in your opinion, so that's
exactly.
I think a perfectly acceptable answer, even if I think you're wrong.
But who did a better acting job? That is tough for me. I was
Leo had the range. He had like a stutter, which I'm not even sure if you really needed to add, but that was a nice touch. But you see him going off the rails. You see him crying almost in fleeting moments.
Yeah, in him flipping out was believable.
It was great. Like that scene, that scene when he's talking to himself and he's like, I'm not drinking anymore. And then he takes like the swig of from the flask and throws it out. He's the last one.
Yes, that was good. That was
great.
Yeah, Tim, go ahead. Take this one.
Well, first of all, you have to understand that both characters are based on real people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Leo's character is based on Burt Reynolds, and Brad Pitt's is based on Burt Reynolds, stunt man who was his best friend and all that. So there's some of that in there. Like there's little bits of like kind of taking pieces from who they were. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Nick and I were talking about this before you got here, Wes. And
I see how it is.
You're going to say that, I would assume that you would say that this is, Leo's movie with Brad Pitt as the supporting actor.
Yes.
I actually feel like it's a Brad Pitt movie.
Really?
And that Leo, like, if I was...
he does, like... He's kind of the antagonist as far, or the protagonist, I should say, as far as all the Manson stuff is going on. I
feel like the movie was almost told more through his perspective than it was Leo's.
Yes.
Than it was Rick Dalton's. And I feel like if I had to pick who would get the nominations, I would say, Brad Pitt Best Actor, Leo Best Supporting Actor, even though I know that conventionally it'll go the other way around.
Okay. I can see that.
And
I can see that argument.
I agree with Tim, and I found myself constantly saying, get Brad Pitt on the screen more, please. Like, I want him on screen because anytime he's doing something, it's like he's got to be the measured one in the course of everything. He's the one that has to have his crap together.
Right, but part of that role is that you have to know that he's not going to be there as much. Because he's the number 2 guy.
Right.
So you know that he's going to make the most out of when he's there.
He does.
You're not going to get a lot of exposition with his character.
No,
you got a little bit of it when he went home and he was talking to his dog and making dinner, making his macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of that exposition.
So I agree that he is, I think he is the guy in this movie. But that doesn't necessarily always mean that you're the best actor in the course of a movie. I mean,
sure.
So that's why I'm having a tough time with that question.
Yeah, and I think, like you meant, like I just think Brad Pitt, in all of his movies, one, I have a tough time not seeing Brad Pitt in the movie. That's just what I see when I see him on screen.
I feel the same about Leo.
But see, I thought that was more so hidden, and maybe that's just because in the movie he's wearing a wig. Sorry, I didn't mean to touch the mic. And he has the prosthetic fake mustache on and everything. So maybe like what I'm used to seeing from him is a little bit more covered by nature. But
the emotional. Go ahead.
I think he goes in. I think he adopts the roles a little bit more than Brad Pitt. I think Brad Pitt is just kind of that same cool, smooth, suave, like doesn't have to say a whole lot and just kind of carries a big presence about him.
Lieutenant Aldo Rain.
Yeah, and like even like Ocean's 11, even 7, like he's kind of that like hot shot type of guy. Like I think he's kind of the same in all those movies. Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
But he rocks it, man. That's the thing
I'm not saying he hits it out of the park.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Even like Mr. or Mrs. Smith, he's just that kind of like smooth agent.
Speaking of like these action movies that he was in, how freaking shredded was he? Like he was shredded in Fight Club, but he's like
this is like
huge
grown man. Yeah,
he's a big dude in this. Yeah. I was stunned when we saw him take his shirt off. I was like, okay, here we go. And it's like, wait a minute, where did that come from? Aren't you like 57 years old?
He's a good-looking guy.
That? Oh yeah, he gets after it. But the thing is that part of me looks at Leo and I always see. Like he gets emotional. He does a good job with it. It's very believable. I just always feel like this is Leo that I'm seeing. Like where you see that with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
So anytime he does that, as much as it was good when he freaked out, I did think it was better than what I remember like The Departed. And obviously, it was a lot earlier in his career.
Right.
I still feel
really
like
not that long. Maybe it is now. Actually, it doesn't feel like it's that long.
Wasn't that 05 or 06? I'll look
Yeah,
up.
but he was already Leo
yeah.
by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can look it up in a second. But I just always feel like
I think that's right, though.
That's him. That's who he is. Like I could see, honestly, all this crap. I don't know Leo through a hole in the wall, but I just feel like all this stuff was not that much necessarily of a reach for him. This character.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah,
And he was a dink too. Let's be honest. I wasn't a big fan of the character.
Rick Dalton?
Yeah, he was a dink.
He's a Hollywood.
Yeah,
He's
but-
a Hollywood guy.
Yeah, but the way he treated Cliff, I wasn't a huge fan of that.
No, I mean, he was paying Cliff.
This is true.
That was the job.
There was a point where
He would take the money.
It took me a while to know for sure if he was paying him.
Yeah.
I wasn't entirely. But who was your favorite character in the movie?
Cliff Booth.
Oh, he was your favorite. Oh,
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah. That's the man's man right there. Like, who wouldn't want to be that, you know? Like,
I wasn't certain that he was going to be your favorite
no,
character.
when Rick Dalton asked Cliff to fix his antenna, and then he just does the like American Ninja Warrior parkour
Right,
up
yeah.
onto it, and I'm like, holy, where did this come from? You know,
Right.
That's just like 2 hops, he's up there, and I'm like, this is great. This is like really awesome.
Yeah, he was a savage.
Yeah.
The line that Tim, what was the one that you put in the group about him and Bruce Lee?
Oh, I love
Oh,
it.
yeah.
When Bruce Lee was like, if we were to get into a fight, my hands are registered as deadly weapons. If we got into a fight and I accidentally killed you, I could go to jail. And then he says, if anybody accidentally kills anybody in a fight, they go to jail. It's called manslaughter.
Yeah.
It's just
Like, like that line literally had me like I had to pause and laugh for a few minutes because it was that good.
And
It was
I
great.
love that line. My only is that they gave it away in the preview, so like I knew that
see,
was
I didn't-
coming.
I didn't-
oh yeah,
I didn't see
yeah.
that.
So it was like the awesome. I wish they didn't like ruin that, but I was waiting for that line to happen when that scene came up.
I was wondering when you said that in the text what you were talking about because I had no idea. I barely seen any previews, so that was that back and forth. I knew they were gonna go at it.
It was just though it was that Bruce Lee line, and then the response from Cliff Booth.
You know what's funny too is like he thought of that all in his own head too because obviously it didn't happen. It was just
Right.
like, so I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Okay, so speaking of, that's one of my favorite parts. That whole scene, Cliff Booth kicking Bruce Lee's ass
In his
Who
head.
gets a real, yeah, right, exactly.
That's what I
exactly,
mean.
yeah.
He thought of that back and forth. in your head.
Which I had to think about for a second. I was like, oh wow, that didn't really happen. But
Yeah, when they go back to
but
the
that whole scene, because then you get like the callback to did he kill his wife, and you got the Kurt Russell and Kurt Russell's wife, and the wife's like handle it, and then Kurt Russell ends up saying like the same exact thing that his wife says.
same thing.
Yeah, which is I think that whole scene was just awesome.
There's also some speculation because most Tarantino movies are kind of existent in the same universe. That there's some speculation that Kurt Russell in that movie was actually the father of Stuntman Mike from Death Proof.
Oh,
So that could have been his parents. That this could have been.
I can see that. Okay, I like that because isn't it? Who was it? Vincent Vega and Mr. Pink.
Vic Vega.
Yeah,
Oh, now you love
yeah,
the
the
movie,
two-
Wes.
yeah.
The two of them
Everything's
are
connected.
brothers.
That's it. That's
It
what
all
I want.
means something.
Well, it's a greater world, and then obviously you have the cigarettes. The cigarettes all kind of
Yep,
come
Red
into
Apple
play.
cigarettes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually my first question for you. Actually, that my big
how
question.
are the cigarette smokers in that?
Yes, how do you grade everybody?
They're pretty good. They're pretty solid cigarette. I don't imagine Brad Pitt's a cigarette smoker,
I don't know. I don't think so.
but they're chain smoking left and right. But I didn't have a problem with it. It was a little excessive. The thing on the airplane really bugged me when they're like, when he's just sitting back, flying back from Italy in coach, and everyone is like smoking cigarettes around him. Like, I can't believe that used to happen.
yeah, I mean, it was.
Can you imagine being on an airplane just like filled with
This is a
nicotine
totally
smoke?
unrelated point.
I'd lose it.
But have you ever seen The Exorcist 3?
No, I have not.
No.
So it's actually a very good movie. It's not as
What a
bad.
pull.
Okay.
Exorcist
Okay.
2 is bad. But I thought of you the other day when I was watching the movie because Scott Wilson is in the movie, who is actually somebody that I was a little bit friendly with.
Humble
from
brag.
The Walking Dead, yes.
I
but,
like that.
I got to spend a day with him.
That's right.
Okay.
You
And,
said that before.
Nice guy. So I feel really bad criticizing him for this, but he is the worst cigarette smoker I've ever seen on film in that
Oh,
movie.
really? How does he smoke it?
It's like it's weird,
Oh,
and he's constantly smoking in every scene that you see him
Like
in a hospital.
flimsy?
He's a doctor in a hospital smoking, and he's holding it like straight up and down, and like curls his lips under it. It's like very weird.
Oh, like he's hitting like a roach clip or something like that, and he's just
No. Like like coming up under it. It's just weird.
So
okay.
I've got it for you guys on the live stream. This is what Tim was doing. This is
it's kind of dropping it in like a pelican or something.
Yeah, it's almost like he's holding a cigarette and he has to come up to meet it.
Okay.
It's very weird.
I've never seen anything like that
now,
in my life.
what I do like in the movies in regards to the cigarettes is that they look like they're reacting to the smoke in their eyes when they're getting down to the nitty-gritty of it, because that's also a real thing too.
Yeah, you get that little like
burn, like the smoke kind of gets in your eyes there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So would you say, is DiCaprio smoke cigarettes? Brad Pitt smoke cigarettes?
Yeah, everybody.
Margot
everyone
Robbie?
smokes. Does she smoke? She's pregnant.
I'm asking you.
She smoked and drank, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, she did. Yeah.
Yes. So the two prominent ones were DiCaprio and Pitt.
I was cognizant of it. Nothing really jumped out as bad cigarettes.
So you give them both A's.
Yeah. They're let's go pass fail for this one.
Pass fail for this one.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think Brad Pitt's a legitimate smoker, though.
Is he? Yeah.
No, he was just asking that a second ago.
Like
yeah.
he does smoke a lot in movies.
That's true. It's a good point.
Maybe he does. He also dips too when he's Billy Bean.
Yeah.
That seems to fit Brad Pitt a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay.
Man's man.
So
what else you got?
Well, what did you like about the? What you like about it?
I would say that the Bruce Lee part was very funny. I think that stands out most. Which actually, though, Tim was saying before the show, and I don't remember if you had this in your notes, Wes, but apparently Bruce Lee's family was like
very upset. Yeah.
Get over yourself.
His daughter. Yeah.
It's a caricature. This is it's a Quentin Tarantino movie. What do you expect?
It's like we were saying. This whether it is a reimagination of the history, actual events. People look at movies and then that's just gets warped into their memory, and then you look back on that and then you just assume that that's what happened.
Yeah, but I mean,
this is another thing that has a deeper Tarantino layer to it. So Tarantino is a huge fan of Sonny Chiba, who was kind of like a poor man's Bruce Lee.
Knockoff, yeah.
And so he was in a lot of the chop socky, like Saturday afternoon matinee movies that Tarantino would see as a kid. And he always felt like Sonny Chiba is underappreciated, and Bruce Lee gets this mythological heroism. So I mean, I haven't read anything about this being, but it would almost be my take.
I like
would
that
be
thought, though.
He's kind of knocking Bruce Lee a little bit because he's such a Sonny Chiba fan.
Okay,
that's interesting. So personally, I enjoyed the back and forth with the little girl. She didn't ruin the scene, which is always
everything was that she did. She was like maybe the strongest actor in the whole movie.
That's actually a fair point. I mean,
she was amazing.
She's like, I'm an actor,
yeah,
not an actress.
She that back and forth, that conversation, again, didn't really bring a whole lot, but like I loved it.
Yeah,
some people are against it.
Really,
some people feel that was Tarantino's standing up to Harvey Weinstein. Segment of the movie.
Okay.
Because this is the first movie this is the first movie that he's ever made that doesn't involve Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
And so he's been very vocal about being against Weinstein, everything that he did. So some people are kind of like, that's him putting an empowered woman, even in the 1960s, into this movie.
So why wouldn't people like that?
Because but they feel like it's trite.
Okay.
So it's because she's younger. So, 50 years from then, she's going to be like one of these she's going to be Meryl Streep in 50 years.
Right.
And saying like, we should have been treated as actors and not as these, eye candy
sex
women.
objects. Yeah.
My favorite part, though, I think at the end of it all, Wes, was, before I throw it back to you, was the end. The fight was just freaking Brad Pitt in all his glory.
Right. With the acid dip cigarette.
The two of them just absolutely killed it, pun intended.
But it's the dog who steals the show.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
The dog was amazing.
I thought of you right away when that happened.
Very pro dog.
The began with a B. What was the dog's name again?
Brandy.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that whole scene is amazing. Again, you're kind of waiting for something to kind of happen and build up, and that kind of pays off all those lulls throughout the movie. Mm-hmm. The other one you had mentioned, kind of assimilating it to the milk scene in Inglourious Bastards, was Cliff going to is it Sean?
The Spawn Ranch.
Spawn Ranch there, and you're just kind of waiting for something bad to happen.
So what did you think was going to happen? I'm curious, because
I thought there was going to be some Charlie Manson stuff. Like that was my biggest disappointment.
Here's where I think that it kind of fell off. As much as I say the movie, the ending of the movie made it for me, I also wonder, was that the original ending to the movie,
right?
Or should we have seen more Manson stuff? And it just got to the point where like, oh, wait a minute, we've now got 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And so let's just wrap this up as quick as we can.
Is that how long that was? It felt long.
241, 237.
Oh, God,
But
yeah, it felt long.
the fight scene and everything it's great, but it's quick.
Yeah.
So it's not like a real good payoff.
It's
for
so
what it has been
violent,
building
though,
toward.
Tim. You're right. Brandy was phenomenal.
Right.
As much as I love Pitt, she was the star for sure. But when I saw Brad Pitt go into that back and there was a body there, I was expecting a corpse.
Yeah.
Personally.
Oh, yeah.
And then he was going to get jumped and have to try and battle his way out of that. That's what I thought was going to happen personally.
Yeah, and I think it also, when he's coming back and then he finds the knife in the tire, and then he just very casually, very measured, as we were talking about before, in classic Brad Pitt fashion.
The king.
Just knocks his teeth in a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. You know how you
And
say...
that's an awesome scene right there, too.
You know how you say you could... And this may be a little bit... conceited of me to say or whatever, but you know how you say you could see yourself hanging out with Vince Vaughn and you'd have a great time?
He would enjoy my company.
He would enjoy your company. That's exactly
right.
I think that Brad Pitt and I would get along well.
Okay. I
don't know
that.
if he didn't, I don't know if I'd go as far to say that, but I mean, I feel like I like to sit in silence sometimes with people that I'm comfortable with. I could do that with Pitt.
He might also be the kind of guy that if he didn't like you wouldn't know.
Yes, he seems very nice.
I
don't know anything about him, but I just get the feeling like
he could not stand you at all, but you'd still feel like you were buddies.
Maybe. But he seems like the kind of guy like Ron Swanson, Nick Offerman, who it's like, he's my best friend. We've never said a word to each other.
Yeah.
So I'd just go that route.
Okay.
Anyways, what else you got?
I think that's what I got. Do we think Cliff killed his wife?
Well, that's kind of all right. So there's two
that's
things.
A good question.
There's
That's
two things behind that.
Yeah.
There's two things behind that. Do you know the real life allusion that they're making to that?
No.
So Robert Wagner was a movie star at the time, television star, and he was married to Natalie Wood. And very much in the same type of a scenario, Natalie Wood fell overboard on the boat and drowned. And to this day, there's a lot of people that think that Robert Wagner actually killed her.
Okay.
So that's kind of like a little bit of a play on that. Also, that's the typical Tarantino where there always has to be like one, almost like a MacGuffin, but there has to be this one thing that doesn't get solved. You don't know what it is.
Right.
You think it's going to play into the plot that it doesn't. So I guess it is a MacGuffin. But so, she was basically the Marcellus Wallace briefcase of this movie.
I would say, gun to my head, yes.
Yeah, he absolutely
They
did.
sure all
He's a war
acted
hero.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a war hero. Stuff like that happens.
But it's also in his own imagination that this is happening, that he has the flashback within his own imagination. So,
that's so true.
Of course he did, right? Like, then he's just thinking that he killed his wife who's not there. And
Right. She could be living in Burbank.
Yeah.
No. I think it happened.
Yeah, I agree with you. Do you not think it happened, Tim?
I think so.
Okay, we're in agreement.
But I think
a gentleman's agreement.
You also don't want him to. You don't want to know because you don't want to think any less of him.
Right.
That hurt when that happened.
But that was a funny scene though, because she's just like laying into him, and then you just see him put the goggles on, and then he's holding the spear.
Yeah.
That was really got me.
Which is why I think I'm going to watch it again.
Really?
I'll watch it when it comes out
on DVD.
But again, it's not rewatchable though. No. I think there's a difference.
It's one of those movies where if it's on, you might grab it and watch it for a bit, or maybe even till the end. But you're not going to grab it off the DVD shelf and put it in.
That's why I say it's not rewatchable more than anything. Is there is some funny stuff that goes on in the movie, but I found myself midway through thinking, what the hell's going to happen in this thing?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know all the history. I found out afterwards with Sharon Tate, right? That was Mark Robbins, and the Mantons and everything like that. Some of the stuff I didn't know. I thought it was all just kind of made up. So once I figured it out, it's like, oh, okay. And then the ending, it's like, well, this is what happens. I mean, I don't know why I'd want to see that again necessarily. It's not.
Well, I want to go back and watch it from my new perspective.
I can understand that.
This movie is a comedy.
Right, it is.
Yes.
And if I go back and watch it from the very beginning, from that point, I think I'll have a completely different experience than I did the first time watching it.
So I was expecting it to be a drama with comedy elements and a Western and some sort of
Tarantino.
a crime movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was pretty funny. I mean, you get that awesome line with Leonardo DiCaprio, Rick Dalton, when he's trying on the flamethrower in the first time in the very beginning, and he's like, "Can you do anything about this heat?" And the guy just goes, "It's a flamethrower." Right. And one of the nice things actually is about having the Fire Stick is that you almost have a laugh track of the audience reacting to the movie. So you kind of know, like you're kind of keyed in on what the funny scenes are, which is kind of nice.
And I actually think that, so we talked about this a little bit, Nick and I, about how some of the criticism has been it doesn't have the typical Tarantino banter. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of it in there, but it's not like when you see Rick and Cliff driving, they're quiet.
Right.
They don't talk. And that's not a Tarantino thing. And I think because it's a comedy, it's a broad comedy as opposed to needing all those little minutia, all those mundane conversations to put the comedic elements into it. The whole thing is a comedy, so you can actually be quiet in the car.
Exactly. Lastly, anything you didn't like about this movie as we kind of run through things here quickly?
I think you should list off those last two things that you have written down.
Okay, so one, I have not enough Charlie Manson, a lot of stagnant parts here. All the women, like not just Margot Robbie, like outside of the young girl, never really say anything. Like even the Italian starlet there.
Yep.
And like each one both Margot Robbie and the Italian starlet have scenes where they're just like out cold snoring, right? Which I thought was kind of weird. Like I didn't get the point of that.
I will say with Margot Robbie, I thought she did a great job with that though.
She was good. I mean,
as someone
I didn't think like it's hard to say she did a great job. Like I think she just gets an NA.
Look, here's my thing. As much as she's a Hollywood actress and everything like that, and she's got all this money, my thing is I understand what it's like to be someone who's by themselves an entire day, like often because with work and everything and being single.
Yeah.
Just personally, I feel like she did a good job kind of pulling it off where she's like, you got work, but she doesn't really have work, but you have work, but you can have freedom to do whatever the hell you want to some extent too.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So that to me it was interesting.
I think part of it too is like there's a fine line of how much you want to try to guess what Sharon Tate was like because she didn't have long in the public eye.
Right.
That's fair.
So I think the idea is, and I think Tarantino has gotten a lot of criticism from people that knew her because of the portrayal, but I think it was more like we want to keep her on this pedestal. Right. As opposed to because like you're sitting there through the whole movie being like, oh, she's going to die soon. She's going to die soon.
Just keep waiting for her.
She's going to die soon. So like she's already this tragic figure. So I think like he tried to not make her any deeper than what the public would already know about her.
Okay.
Gotcha.
The armpit hair on Pussycat, not a fan. I know it's very free love and women's rights and her body, her rules, that sort of thing. Not for me.
I agree.
Lena Dunham. Worst part of the movie, horrible dog owner. Kind of a meta thing though that she's playing a crazy person.
Where is she in this movie?
She's like one of the leaders of the Spawn Ranch.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought
she's the one that like calling for texts, like saying they have to get texts. And
she's a gypsy or mistress. Is that what her name was?
I couldn't tell you her
gypsy,
name.
I think
she was like the mom type figure.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, caused some great controversy because at the British premiere, the London premiere of the film, she kissed Brad Pitt on the lips or tried to without his permission.
Oh.
So it caused a whole big thing on social media about if that had been Brad Pitt trying to kiss Margot Robbie like that, then the internet would have blown up. But we're supposed to think it's so. So there was a lot of people that were like,
not a big fan of hers.
Not a fan of her at all.
I hate.
Do yourself a favor and Google Lena Dunham, dog owner. Or Lena Dunham dog.
It's not just here. You mean in real life?
No, in real life.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that part.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Horrible person. Just sedates her dog all the time and like...
What? She's a horrible person anyway.
Got the dog, gave it up, and said all these horrible things about this. Yeah, go Google it.
That's awful.
Last thing as we wrap this up here, broader statements of the movie. Anything you wanted to mention about that?
I think that...
What do you think this says about hippie culture, which I think is typically looked upon.
Yeah.
There we go. As this kind of great, kind of free love, awesome, peace.
I don't think everybody's that way.
You really can't. I think pigeonhole hippies based on the Manson family.
No, but I think this is what essentially the movie is doing, though. Is it not? There's a whole greater theme of dirty hippies.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the characters felt that.
Right,
way.
that's what I mean. That's what the movie's
But
doing.
it was just that was just more of a matter of them projecting themselves into being elite up against the the hippies. And what's funny is that, you see the scene where they decide to go into Rick's house. It's because they talk about how it was Rick Dalton and characters like he played that made them want to be killers,
right?
You know,
Yes.
that kind. So that's I think that's kind of more what the message is.
I guess so. It's like, and obviously, like with what's going on right now, there's a separation of what's real and what's not, and to blame it on anything like video games or movies, like I still think that's on you, pal.
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
come on, man. We did a whole show talking about Mortal Kombat and all these other ridiculous fighting games where they're decapitating people.
That just shows like they're drugged out.
That's what Tarantino's trying to say. He's trying to say, like, here is people who are obviously insane and just screwed in the head and trying to justify it by saying, well, TV made me this way.
Yeah, it's not my fault.
But in actuality, he's taking, like, the worst possible
the
people
far
in the world.
End of the spectrum.
And saying, like, this is how stupid it sounds when you say that you're blaming the media for it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. You brought it back around. Okay, you landed the plan. I like it.
My bigger thing, too, was just on actors and how, talking about how their careers can just be so fleeting and how they can also be kind of dinks, because as much as...
Very self-absorbed.
So, I mean, dude, and I get that they go through a lot of pressure looking at what happened with Rick Dalton, but he treated Cliff like crap in a lot of ways. I really stand by that. I mean, as much as he paid him all the time, that's good. You know, I didn't realize that till halfway through the movie. I wasn't certain. But, I mean, still, it's just
but
like...
they were also best friends.
I mean, they were, but at the same time, were they? Cliff was his best friend, or... Cliff, yeah. We keep wanting to say Clint.
Yeah, no, I think I had Clint. I had to go back and change it all.
But it's... I didn't get that impression. I felt like Cliff always had his back, but Leo did, or Rick did not always have his back. And to me, your best friend.
That's not true. He always got him a job and everything, even when people didn't want to hire him.
He didn't. What about the movie or the thing he
but
was
that
acting
was
in right
his.
there?
That was in his imagination.
No, but in general, like until that point, he had always had him be part of the productions that he was involved in.
Because he said he did a good job or whatever. I mean, maybe.
And it goes back to the very beginning. That was the whole dynamic of the relationship, is that Cliff carries Rick's load.
Yeah, he does.
That's the dynamic of the friendship there.
That's what it is.
Okay, 3v3. Let's move on here.
Oh, yep. All right, so 3v3 this week. So I tried to make this one as ugly as a fight as it's going to get, because we've had some good battles. We have Sam Burke from Spawn. He's one of the cops. He's the bigger guy, for those who don't know. Sylvester the Cat from Looney Tunes. And Jimmy Olsen, obviously, of... DC Comics Superman fame, which Tim was pissed about the picture that I used on at Change My Mind pod.
You had to find the only one where he looks like a badass.
Yeah,
right.
And then we have
Rick in
Pete,
the game.
the like one of the main villains from Disney. We see
now he looks like a Doberman Pinscher.
He's definitely a dog. He's definitely a dog, and he's paired up against Goofy fairly often.
He seemed like he might have been another mouse in some of the early Mickey Mouse things.
It's a big animal.
I don't know if
he
mouse
was in. I think he might have been a.
Let's not get worried about semantics.
And then we have Patrick Starr, and then we have Scooby-Doo. Wes, we did have Dr. Joe Gilmore, Backcracker, on Twitter weigh in, and I'm trying to find what his tweet said. He said, I got to be... why is my...
Well, okay. He was talking about Scrappy Doo.
He said it's got to be Team Sylvester. Patrick is lovable but adult. Scooby is a stoner who just wants to eat snacks. Pete is crappy AF, but that trio ain't winning many fights.
Yes, I'm going down with the ship on this one. I'm riding with the two dogs. I happen to think Scooby-Doo is a master detective.
Yeah.
They always find the plan, no matter what. I know he has a team with him. Patrick Starr, again, doesn't really bring much to the table. But maybe I can't. Okay, I can't justify that. Okay, I'm losing this week, but I'm riding with the dogs.
Okay, fair enough.
That's all.
If you go with the Scooby Apocalypse that I showed you, right? The DC Comics.
Yes, that's
totally cheated.
It's not canon. Right?
No. Yes.
Let's be honest here. Scooby-Doo is no master detective. He back-assed his way into solving all those crimes.
We have a great sandwich, though. Maybe
he does make a hell of a sandwich. But
that is true.
He's afraid of everything. And so he would run away from that fight. He would be the only dog to run away from a cat, and besides my dog. And then so he's automatically like gone. He's out of the conversation for me. I'm actually picking the other team because
I'd run away and get high on his own supply right there.
First of all, Sylvester might not be effective, but at least he tries. So he's got determination on his side. He does not give up.
Okay.
And then you also have
Sam Burke
or
Jimmy Olsen.
I was blanking on Jimmy Olsen, but so you have Jimmy Olsen, who is usually the one thing that he can do is he can help figure out what's going on.
Okay.
So you've got a little bit of deduction and intelligence there. And I think that Burke has probably the most heart out of anybody involved in this.
Yes, he does.
Because like he's a guy who he'll admit that he's not like the smartest guy in the room all the time, but he's fiercely loyal. And he has a very good sense of right and wrong. Even if he'll do what's wrong, it's for what's right.
Spawn is he's a real character. He's a real person in Spawn.
In Spawn, yes. He's one of the top.
Now, what I will take umbrage is you have 2 humans against 2 dogs and a starfish.
That is a good point.
They're all kind of human-like. Originally, I had Jimmy Olsen and Pete flip-flopped.
Right.
But I felt like that wasn't necessarily fair because I felt Jimmy Olsen was not the number 2. I feel like Sam Burke is the number 1. Pete's the number 2. And then after that, it was kind of like, honestly, the last 4, they're all kind of crappy.
Yeah.
That's truly how I felt. And at the end of it all, I'm going to go with Sam Burke, too, because after I thought about it more, Pete's kind of overrated. He can get pretty, pretty evil and stuff. We've seen different variations of Disney, but when someone steps up, he's got no shot. And then, I'm glad nobody tried to take this route with Jimmy Olsen, but if he can call in a friend, obviously then it's not really fair.
Well, if I'm calling the whole Mystery Machine then, if we're calling in friends.
This is true. And
SpongeBob.
Yeah.
I'll get SpongeBob.
Well, and if Patrick Starr, too, if he goes the Dirty Dan route, too, then that can... Do you remember that episode?
I wasn't a big SpongeBob
I
fan,
forgot
to be honest.
about that. Okay. But I'm still going with Sam Burke.
I usually get a lot of shit from the lady.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Well, you're a little... that might have been... No,
it was there. I just
there?
Never really caught on.
Oh, okay. So Wes, we haven't just been worrying about how dogs are going to fight humans in the course of getting ready for this week. Before we get rolling, because Tim has Midnight in the Desert, what else has been on your mind?
The Great British Baking Show on Netflix. I put that on. Well, my fiance Julia put that on, and I sat down to watch it because I usually dominate the television shows that we watch. So I was trying to appease her.
Good man.
And I love it. It's fantastic. It's feel-good shows. They're amateur bakers. They all kind of root for one another, except for one host who's, I don't know if he's a comedian, but he looks like a heroin addict. I'm not a fan of his. I forget his name. I wish I came up with his name right now. But great show. Very enjoyable. If you think of all the Food Network shows that are great, the Beat Bobby Flay's, or not diners, but all the contestant type shows, Guys Grocery Games, all that stuff, you never see... you always have to wait in the commercials to see who gets chopped or who wins or anything like that. And you always have that long commercial break. You don't have that case here with the Netflix shows. You just roll right in one after another. So there's no, I always hate that suspense. I'm like, just give me the damn answer already.
Sounds like a good couple show, though.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
I'm into it.
Well, if I get a girlfriend, then I will be sure to give that a watch.
You got you can watch it by yourself.
Yeah,
it's an enjoyable show.
Well, if I'm going to watch something by myself, I'm probably going to watch Batman Hush, which has been out.
I did hear about this.
It has been out in digital, but it comes out on Blu-ray this week, August 6th. I haven't seen it yet. I will be watching it. Look, if you've read the series in Batman, or the story arc, I'm sorry, totally worth your time. Wes, I know it's animated. And
I do enjoy the animated stuff,
okay,
though.
I highly recommend it. Also, last thing I wanted to point out, too, Tim got followed by Boss Logic, one of the popular artists we see on comic. You see him on Instagram and all that stuff.
He's done a whole bunch of stuff with Keanu Reeves renderings.
Yes, that's exactly how Tim got followed, which I had quote tweeted that before, but of course, Tim, being the bastard that he is, just because he has a freaking blue check mark, other blue check marks will follow him.
Well,
so Tim,
that's how it goes. They all sit at the same lunchroom.
Tim, I hate you. I just want you to know that.
I listen, I can't help it if people want to be my friend.
I guess not. Also, just a programming note, I will be at Boston Fan Expo when it comes up for anybody that listens.
Oh, very nice.
That wants to say hi. I just found that out today. But anything else, Wes, before we get going? TBD for next week?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Your favorite type?